So it's funny because people ask me, like, how did you come to writing? And I have all of these different events in my life, and they all come out of sort of desperation and some sort of accident or big, watershed event. And so what happened is I had moved to New York City, wanted to be an actor, could not get an audition to save my life, and I took a job working across from the UN at a seafood restaurant where all the diplomats and political sort of movers and shakers at that time would come because they could get a really cheap fish lunch and pay no taxes on it. And I was a terrible waiter, and I was so frustrated that what I did was I used to walk through the East Village and go into these tiny theaters and just sign up for open mics. And they'd be coming, they'd be 3 weeks away. I would have no idea what I was gonna do. I would not have anything written or prepared, and then just spend the next 2 weeks of panicking. And one night, it was about 3 days before I was supposed to go do this 10-minute open mic, I was working the late night shift at the bar, and these two Serbian terrorists came in. This was the time when there was all the Sarajevo conflict going on. And they came in, they sat down, the bartender spoke Russian, fortunately, and they were having this conversation in Russian, and what we didn't know is there was a Croatian man sitting across the bar who was the maitre d' at Lutece, a very fancy restaurant. What he was doing in our horrible restaurant, I don't know, but here they are, and they're having a conversation. And all of a sudden they pull out giant guns, and they hold us all at gunpoint. These are these waiters, we're just here. And at that point I thought, well, now I'll just have something I can write about at this open mic. So I wrote this, show about it, and that became this kind of short piece that I then developed into a full show, and it was called Fish. And anyway.
What happened? I mean, with the guns.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the guns. I didn't end up being shot. I'm still here in order to teach the class at LitReactor. I'm still here. What happened is that the Croatian man got down on his hands and knees, and in a language none of us understood, begged for our lives. And it was this incredible monologue that I didn't understand what was going on, but basically all parts of humanity were going on, in this monologue. And he was begging for us and pointing to us and saying things and weeping, and basically the terrorists just looked at each other at the end of his monologue and just put their guns back and left. And then the music came back on. It was like the scene in Star Wars. Bum, 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 out they go. And so I've sort of always felt like I owed this guy, my life basically, but also just sort of the writing comes from this kind of place where you don't even really understand what you're doing, but it has all this support. So.
Did you at least dedicate the play to this guy?
Yeah, dedicate.
It's the least you could do.